Hey everybody, it's Peter, and this is the Suzuki V-Strom 800DE. It's one of my favorite bikes, and this one happens to be a 2024, but I'm reviewing it in 2025. We're going to talk about it in the context of 2025, and the reason I'm reviewing it is because these things are hard to keep in stock. They are so popular and so good at what they do, so if the 2025 shows up, I will absolutely review it again, and we'll make sure we talk about any differences, which is really just color, but it gives me an excuse to come back to this bike. So, I'm filming here at McLean Sports. They have this in stock right now, which is why I jumped on it, and we're going to talk about all the details that make this bike great, a couple things that maybe could be tweaked on it, and we're going to help you decide if it's right for you. So again, filming here at McLean's, they give me complete access to their entire vehicle lineup, and I will cover every single 2025 motorcycle that I possibly can this year. So if that interests you, make sure you hit subscribe, give a like to McLean's here on the video, and if you want to help me out, just watch this video to the end. That's the best thing you can do for my channel. The more this channel grows, the more access I get to more things, which is more information for you guys. All right, let's get going with this review. So we have to place this bike in a class, and in 2025, the adventure bike class is booming, and this one to me is a leader in that class. Now, you're gonna have all kinds of opinions on this because what is an adventure bike? For some people, an adventure bike is something that can go intensely off-road, and this bike could, but you'd wanna modify it. For other people, an adventure bike is something that goes everywhere on-road and is slightly capable of going down those dirt roads and that kind of thing. That can be an adventure bike for some people, and this one, of course, fits that as well. For me, I grew up loving sport bikes because they handled well, they had great brakes, and they just were fun to ride. Well, the fun thing about the modern adventure bike is with tire technology improving, with suspension improving, with braking improvements, you really have an on-road bike that can handle on-road driving just as fun as the average rider would use the average sport bike on the average road. Now, I'm not saying this is as sporty as a sport bike in any way, but what you can find now in an adventure bike is a seating position that's comfortable, a ride that is sporty enough for the road, and a true bike that can go anywhere. For me, what makes a great adventure bike is a bike that can take me absolutely anywhere. If I want to turn down that rough country road that's just not paved very well, I can go down there. If I want to go down a dirt road, I can go down there. I'm not a hugely skilled off-road rider, so I'm not going to be taking this thing on trails that I would only take a dual sport or a pure dirt bike on. I would want to go down, mostly roads, and that's where this bike fits perfectly. Some of the negatives about this bike for off-road, like its higher weight, don't matter as much if you plan to have an adventure bike for all roads. So that's really, to me, what this is in stock form. A really good bike for absolutely any road. All right, let's take a look at this bit by bit, piece by piece, as we go through and help you decide if it's right for you. So if you've seen my videos before, you know I love to take a look at the front wheel to start because you can tell the manufacturer's intent of a bike by looking at the front wheel area. And what you have here is a true off-road bike. It's got a 21-inch wheel, spoked wheels, that's everything you want. Now they are tube tires. Some people like tube tires, some people like tubeless tires. It's worth pointing that out. You do have the dual disc brakes, you have an ABS. This is a multi-setting ABS system, so you can turn your rear ABS off for certain modes like gravel mode, that kind of thing. But the dual disc is also very nice. You've got a lot of strength here. And you've got semi-on-road, semi-off-road tires. Now, if you're a true adventure bike person who does adventure bike videos, like all those guys out there, they're gonna say you're gonna wanna upgrade these tires. If you are a little bit more like me, you may wanna keep these tires on for a while, see how they go as you get used to this bike on the road. They're certainly capable on a dirt road, rougher road. You've got the suspension travel for all that. So you can decide what you wanna do. It's not something like these are terrible tires. They're just not gonna be good in the mud compared to other tires that are out there. So you do have options simply because of the sizing here. You got a 21-inch front, 17-inch rear. You've got, 18-inch rear would give you a few more sizes, but basically any type of tire you're gonna want for this, you can get. Now for me, this would work. The one thing, we'll talk about tires a little bit later. We'll talk about suspension right now. It is upside down suspension, so it gives you a stiffer upper. It gives you less unsprung weight down here. And of course, having the dual disc brakes on either side, like we mentioned before, good suspension, good brakes, and the suspension is adjustable here as well as being the highest travel suspension or the most travel suspension and the most ground clearance out of any V-Strom. What that means is more than the 650 and more than the 1050. This 800 has, is really the best sort of Goldilocks bike out of the three of them. So taking a look at the heart of this bike, this was a big controversy to the hardcore V-Strom fans. V-Strom, they said when they brought it out, used to be standing for the 90-degree V-twin engines in the V-Strom 650, for instance. This one has a parallel twin. Now they're saying that the V stood for versatile, which is what Kawasaki used to say their Versys stands for, versatile systems, but I think it doesn't really matter. What you have here is a really good engine, 776cc, parallel twin, 270-degree crank, free revving engine. everybody loves this in this bike. Everybody loves the engine in the more sporty bikes like the 8S and other GSX 8S and 8R. So this is a well put together engine. People like the smoothness of it, the free revving nature of it. They also like the reliability of it, and that's really what V-Strom is all about. Good engine, good reliability, but this one, of course, has a little bit more performance than the 650, and again, a little more free revving fun style. This also has the technology that you want. You've got things like a quick shifter up and down. You've got things like ride modes and other kinds of things with the electronic throttle. So we'll talk about some of those things. It's also easy to ride. You've got some Suzuki technologies in this that make it easier to ride. So really good power plant here. That I think sets up very well for what you want to do, even though it's a parallel twin. It's just going to give you all the highway comfort you need. It's going to give you the low-down dirt grunt that you need. Just a really balanced power plant for a bike that has to do a lot of things and do a lot of things well. So one of the things with adventure bikes is as you increase suspension travel, you increase ground clearance, you also raise the seat height. Now this is a 33.7-inch seat height. Now seat height on a spec sheet is very difficult to judge for the average person, because different bikes measure in different ways and how you're going to fit on a bike is going to be very different. So you can see here, I can't quite flat foot this bike, but I do feel like I have very good control over it, even though it's a taller bike and it's not super light. At 507 pounds, that's a heavy bike. It's a little bit heavier than some other bikes in this class. However, it doesn't feel that heavy, and confidence comes from how it feels as much as how much it is in a certain weight. So having lighter weight would have helped, but what would I take off this bike to lighten the weight? I don't really know, and I'm telling you right now, the way it feels is very controllable. It feels very street bike controllable. One thing with adventure bikes is they do have large tanks. This has a 20-liter fuel tank, so that's gonna get you where you need to go. This engine is very fuel efficient, and that's what you want. Big tank, fuel efficient engine to go wherever you need to go. That can add some weight up top here, but again, doesn't feel that bad. It feels very controllable, even though I'm slightly tippy-toed. I'm about 6 feet tall, just a hair, around 6 feet with shoes on, hair under there, and you can see easy to control here. Now, you do have a couple things that can change things here. You've got a nice big seat here. You do have a remote preload adjustment for the suspension. We'll zoom in on that in a second there, and that can also, keep the ride height and also maintain the suspension travel that you need as you weigh this down and take it on an adventure. But let's just talk about seating position. First of all, rubber pegs here do have a lot of tread. We're going to show you that in a second as well. Obviously, you take those out if you're out on a pure dirt adventure, but even the rubber tread on these, they aren't street oriented, so they still have some tread on there. You've got the hand guards here. They're going to give you some extra wind protection and a relatively low and relatively far away windshield. Now, some people will say you're going to want to get the windshield from the RE. This is the DE model. The RE is a road going model, has a little bit taller windshield. That's an option for you. It's a very inexpensive upgrade. A lot of windshields can be really expensive. Suzuki prices that very well. So you could easily upgrade and keep both windshields for different types of things. I've had an adventure style bike in the past, the Versus 650, with a lot of wind protection and the hand guards. And what I found is on hot days, it gets to be too much. So this might not be a bad option for some people, because it does let clean air come through to your helmet while still keeping your body protected through the handguards and the lower area here. So that's an option for adventure, but of course, if you want to get it larger, you can. No heated grip standard. That's worth mentioning on an adventure bike. Sometimes they have them, sometimes they don't. Obviously, you can add all kinds of accessories to this bike. But there's your seating position. Very upright, very comfortable, very good commanding view of the road. I can see through the body to see my actual front wheel here, so you're not sort of blinded by your front wheel. You can sort of place it both around the fairing and through the fairings to see where your front wheel is going. I think that's a really good thing to have on an adventure bike. Mirrors are well placed. Overall, really good ergonomics on this bike for a long trip, as well as if you needed to stand up and control the bike standing when you're on your off-road adventure. So I just wanted to show you those rider foot pegs there. You can see, as you can see, the rubber can be removed there, but it does sort of take away some vibrations if you're on a longer highway trip. So you've got the rubbery mounted there. You've got this typical off-road, just steel there, no rubber on the brake pedal there. And as we scroll up over here, we're going to show you this, the passenger foot peg, just to show you the contrast. This is more of a street-oriented peg with less grip on there. But we also want to show you just behind there, if you can see it when I get to the right spot. There we go, center of your screen. There's your remote preload adjustment. So again, protected behind the rear peg area there, but you do have the ability to just spin that if you add a passenger or if you add some weight and get that preload adjusted remotely, which is just a nice feature to have. So let's take a look at the seat here. Seats matter on adventure bikes, also for not only for passenger comfort, but for luggage as well. Let's talk about that. So taking a look at the seat here, you can see it goes kind of a long ways up. That's what you want. You want to be able to move your body weight forward on an adventure bike. I will say that all of this looks like it's fraying. It looks like the stitching there is fraying. That's just, looks like maybe cleaner or some soap or whatever got in there, because I can wipe most of that off and get down to regular thread type things. So don't worry about that. But again, good shaped seat. It brings you down in the middle. You know, you've got a wide seat where you're sitting. And of course, the cushion doesn't always touch or the cover doesn't always touch the cushioning, but when you get to the cushioning, it's a firm but still, you know, giving area there. The other thing you have is a very large seat on the back here. So even on the 800, you've got plenty of seat space for a passenger, but of course, being an adventure bike, it's mounted relatively flush to this panel here. Now, of course, a lot of people will put a top box on here. So this is actually a hair down from this seat here, meaning you could put the plate on for the top box, for the quick release top box, and still have a level seat here. But as it is, you just want to take a duffel bag out or soft luggage or whatever you want. You've got all kinds of mounting places, from the hand grips there to the rack as is from the factory. Of course, you can move up to the adventure model, which gives you things like the crash bars and the hard side luggage. I do like lockable luggage. Lockable luggage is great for an on-road adventure. Some people like soft bags for an off-road adventure. You can do whatever you want with this one as equipped. You could add those bags in the higher trim. I would say if you're going to add a crash bar and the hard luggage anyways, you may want to consider the adventure model, because that all comes standard, but you can always piece this together any way you want. So really versatile, something that's comfortable, something that can take your luggage, something that can take a passenger. That's what you don't always get in every other motorcycle. Let's talk about the dash and controls now. So taking a look at the dash here, you now have a nice, I think it's a 5-inch screen here, if I can get the key in far enough that I can spin it. There we go. And you can see the dash come to life. Very nice color display. What I really like about this display is it tells you can service it at 1,000 kilometers. What I really like about this display is it gives you all the information you need. It gives you the traditional shaped tachometer. Now, one thing about a traditional shaped tachometer with the evenly spaced settings there, or evenly spaced numbers there, is you can see exactly what the engine's doing without reading the numbers, right? You can just tell at a glance, I'm at around 7,000, or I'm, you know, a third away from redline, that kind of thing. So you don't have to rev this right out to redline to get good power. It makes a lot of good mid-range torque, which is what you need, and you have that quick shifter as well. Quick shifter is indicated right there. QS is on. Obviously, you've got kilometers an hour, you got your gear indicator, you got your fuel gauge. Your battery's a little low right now. We can get that topped up. Outdoor temperature, or sorry, engine temperature, outdoor temperature. There's lots of things you can cycle through, but really what I want to quickly show you, we can do a full dash review in the future if you wanted to see that, but what I really want to show you here is you've got your traction control highlighted up top. So you've got level 1 or off, or 2 or 3 and that kind of thing. Then you can go over to the Suzuki Dynamic Management System, something like that. This is your throttle. So A would be more aggressive, B would be more balanced, and C would be more conservative. That's how I remember them. I'm sure they use different acronyms, but C is kind of like chill, B is kind of like balanced, and A is more aggressive. So again, whatever way you want to term that, that's how I remember them. And then ABS also, you can turn it off or on, and again, the sort of the gravel mode on these bikes can sort of do that. So you've got multiple levels of ABS there, multiple levels of traction control, and again, that's all because you have a throttle that is electronic throttle. Now we'll talk about what an electronic throttle could do for you and what it does do for, or doesn't do for you on this bike in a second, but let's first look at the controls. So to control this bike, everything is on the left here, and it's as simple as could possibly be. You've got the mode button to switch through those different, you know, the ride mode, ABC, the traction control, that kind of thing. And then you've got this mode to switch through other controls, and this can also switch to that depending on if you hit the mode or not. What I'm getting at is all these controls do everything. It's very easy to learn, very easy to figure out. On some adventure bikes, it is a very complicated system to learn how to use stuff. So you have a dash that's clear and controls that are simple. That's kind of the way this bike is. Over here by my finger, you pull out like that, and you got your high beams on. You flash to pass like there, right there. You got the LED headlights. You got good feeling signal lights. You've got good horn down here. One thing you may not see here is cruise control. A lot of people want this bike to have cruise control because it has that electronic throttle. However, I've heard you can get that through the aftermarket now. It should be a fairly simple and relatively inexpensive upgrade. I can't remember that. Big Rock Moto has some of the information on that on his YouTube channel, so you can check out that channel. But it's an option, it's just not an option from Suzuki, which I think makes a lot of people upset. Although to be fair, almost everything in this class does not come with cruise control. Taking a look at the throttle side here, you do have the kill switch, start switch as one, and you have a thing that I think every bike should have, especially every adventure bike, is the hazard warning lights or the four-way flashers, whatever you want to call it. But of course, you're going to be navigating on this thing, right? You're going to be going all sorts of places. You want to stop and check out your maps or check out, not maps, nobody's carrying maps anymore, check out GPS, other kinds of stuff. So having that hazard warning light just gives you a little extra safety on the road. I will say that the brake lever here is 5-position adjustable. The clutch lever is not adjustable, but it is a nice light, relatively light clutch pull on that as well. So there are your adjustments, there are your controls. One other thing we should point out is some of the suspension adjustments. Let's take a quick look at that. Just looking through the handlebar here, if you look down there, you've got the top of the fork tube. It does have adjustable suspension here. That, to me, is a big deal on a bike like this, because for the people that want to take this bike purely off-road, you can stiffen things up. If you're going to take it almost entirely on-road and just be able to take some certain gravel roads here and there, you can soften it up. You can do what you want with it. You can make it more sporty. You can do whatever. Customizing it the way you want to is good, but it also is such a versatile bike that as you go through, as you've owned this bike for longer and longer, you may want to start doing different types of rides, and that's one of the benefits of a bike like this is you can buy it for one purpose, it'll still work for other purposes down the road, and you have the suspension that you can adjust to fit whatever your riding style may be today, whatever you ride on today, as well as what you might ride on in the future. Taking a quick look at the headlight here, I don't like the 650 anymore. I think that needs to be updated. Here you have an update that some people don't like, but I do. You've got the LED light right there. You've got the other LED high beam right there, flash to pass, and then you've got your nice LED signal lights here. So LEDs all the way around, which is different than the V-Strom 650. I really like that. I do like that these are sort of set in as well. Now again, if you want extra lighting on this bike, you could put it on, you could put crash bars on, lots of options, but I do think these are good lights. You've also got that daytime running light kind of above there as well. So to me, very good lighting on this bike, all that you're going to need. But yeah, I mean, some people like the style, some people don't. I think it's just fine. Maybe I've just adapted to what they are now, but I think it looks good. So before we talk about if this bike is right for you, I want to talk about a couple things that make this bike easy. And that's the one thing that I find about this 800 bike is that it is just easy. With adjustable suspension and all the suspension travel make it easy to go down whatever road you want. The engine makes it easy to go down highways, easy to go down side roads, easy to go down back roads, easy to go down dirt roads. And the technologies, a couple of little technologies I want to point out here. Suzuki's easy start system, no big deal, but you just tap the start button. You don't have to hold the start button. That's one thing they always sort of brag about. But their low RPM assist. A lot of people think this low RPM assist is for beginning riders. Basically makes it really hard to stall. If you don't give it enough throttle and you kind of release that clutch, a lot of bikes will stall. This one has Suzuki's assist where it'll actually give it a little bit extra throttle for you to just help you get launched. Again, a lot of people think that's for a new rider, but that can also be a great off-road feature if you're just thinking about all sorts of things and you just kind of, mess up your clutch a little bit when you're, juggling all kinds of things off-road. It's going to give you that smooth launch there. It's also got the quick shifter up and down. I think that's great on a longer tour. Just gives you a little bit simpler up and down, and it also makes it kind of sporty. So let's talk about if this bike is right for you. And to do that, I'm going to do something I usually don't do. I'm going to throw my own opinion into this of why I really like this bike. To me, what I would get an adventure bike for is a bike that can go absolutely everywhere, but not crazy off-road. As equipped, this bike does that. Now, would I upgrade the tires? Possibly, because my off-road skills aren't as good as my on-road skills, and these are what they call 90-10 or 80-20 type tires, where they're more on-road than off-road. They're going to last a little bit longer, but they're not going to give you some of the traction that you want on the really off-road stuff. What I will say is, a 50-50 tire might give you more traction off-road, but less comfort on-road. Forgetting the tires for a second, what I love about this bike is the versatility. If I want to just commute back and forth, do the things that I do every day, this thing gives me that option. If I want to take some luggage, go to the store, that kind of thing, I can get some soft luggage, hard luggage, whatever I want. Again, whip to the store, come back, take my stuff, take a gym bag, do all that kind of stuff. If I, in the future, want to do longer tours with this bike, I don't have to get a new bike. I can do longer tours. If I want to go explore off-roads and dirt roads and that kind of thing, which is about as far off-road as I would go on a 500-pound bike, I can do that as well. What this bike means for me is longevity, no matter what I'm interested in. The other really good thing about this bike is it gives you the option of going a long ways anywhere you want to go. So if you want to be comfortable on a long trip, you've got that. This is a slightly adjustable windshield, but like we said, Suzuki has an option for that road going windshield that's taller and gives you more options to go farther. Basically, this thing is sporty enough to give a lot of sporty riders all the sport you would want, but it's also something that can give you the adventures that you want, whether you want to go short trips or long trips. A versatile bike is always a good bike in my books. Now, is it best for you? If you're hardcore off-road, you have to deal with the weight. It's going to be heavier in some, but everything else, it's got a lot of features there. And you might want to swap the tires. If you're more on-road and thinking you want to get more and more off-road, this is probably a perfect bike. It's really good on the road. It can handle some off-road stuff just with a suspension setup, and you can tweak it as you go. So again, if you want a bike that grows with you or adapts with you, that's what the V-Strom 800 is. Really, really good bike, and I'm gonna be honest, it's my pick of 2024 for the best all-around adventure bike out there for a lot of people, right? It's hard to say what's best for you, that's up to you. But for me, this would be my pick for 2024. What happens in 2025? Well, it's the same bike, and I haven't seen anything that ranks above it in my books. There are better bikes off-road, there are better bikes on-road, but as far as a versatile bike that does everything, for me, this would be my choice. Let me know what you think in the comments, and again, we'll be able to come back to this when it's a 2025 model with the new colors. We'll talk about it then. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll talk to you in the next one.